Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. We can do a little more energy than that, even if it's cold out there. Good morning. Good morning. There we go. I'm Randy Becker. It says I'm supposed to welcome myself here as among the announcements, but I'll just tell you a bit about myself. I grew up a Universalist Unitarian over in Utica, New York. They were slow starters. They waited until 1824 to form their congregation, as opposed to the congregation here in Danbury that was 1822. And for the last 53 years, I've served professionally in the ministry to Unitarian Universalist congregations and area councils. So that's part of who I am. But the real welcome is to all of you. I'm going to invite you in a few moments to also greet those who are online. Hello out there. We have some announcements we want to make this morning. One of which, reminder that the Music at the Ridge is not happening this afternoon because of illness of one of the performers. I don't know which one they've got up there. Let me go see.
Yeah, it's in Clark.
Yeah, you have to introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm going to introduce myself. Yeah. Okay. Afterwards, downstairs, down those stairs, there'll be a meeting to talk about the transition that we'll be having in ministry when Kathleen finishes out her ministry here later in this year. Also, there's going to be a discussion on some social action issues next Sunday after the service, and also about General Assembly attendance, if you want to pay attention to those. And then the big one, which I hope is going to pop up, is that say auction up there? Yeah, well, I see the announcement for the auction. I'm a relative newbie. I only became a member of this congregation less than a year ago. So I am totally confused about this auction. So where is it going to happen? Barb, can you ask?
So glad you asked, Randy.
Oh, good. Where, is this auction going to be a big dinner here?
You know, we used to have a big dinner here with, the place was magical. But, well, during the pandemic, we started doing it online, and we're hoping maybe we can get back to the other, but it takes a huge committee to do. So it's online, and we have this part that's called live, which is not really live. It just means that it's live on Zoom.
Okay. And, you know, one of the things, we have this ongoing discussion in our household about the things we have.
Oh, yeah.
I'm reminded that we have too many things in the household. So I'm not sure I need more stuff in my life. Why should I participate in an auction for the payoff?
Randy,
Oh,
you read my mind. You know, the auction really is mostly consumables. And by that, I mean dinners you can go to or events you can experience, but then it's consumed. Or services people will do for you, but you're not going to get any more stuff. But there's one exception. We do have the UUCD art section because we have some wonderful artists here. And I happen to bring this bowl with me. So I bought this beautiful bowl a few years ago, and Eva, our artist, this is just one of our little art pieces, is offering another one this year. So you can buy art, but other than that, it's all consumable, including wine. That's consumable.
so what, you know, what's with, it's all dinners and events. Why so many things that, like getting together?
Well, you know, even if you're not a newbie, there are lots of people who just think, oh, should I go to one of those dinners? What's with the dinners? Well, the dinners are fun and consumable and very welcoming. They're very welcoming to new people. So Randy, you're going to meet people in like an intimate space, and the people putting on the dinners go way out of their way for you, for everyone, actually.
There's a mysterious item that's talked about, and it says matching funds.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not an item really. So there are people who don't want more stuff, but they don't really want to go to dinner. They don't want to, they're like, you know what? I want to support our only fundraiser, but I don't want to, let me do something else. So for them, Randy, we have this thing called matching funds. And so let's say we make a modest $10,000 by the time the auction's done. And then you can say, well, I'll give 1% of that, which would be, what's that, 100?
Yep.
Or you can just say, I'll give $100. Boom, that's my match. So it's a way to contribute without participating in other ways. And we have a lot of people who do that because they want to support their beloved community. And Randy, I also forgot, I'm sorry to say this, but besides all these non-consumables, we also have, you can support our 8th principle by making a donation at the site. We have that. And then of course we have a raffle, anything we can do to try to raise the money. Okay.
So it's going to be a non-live event, but it says it's live. So can you explain that to me? What's going to happen at the live event?
So confusing. Well, first of all, Randy, I don't know if you know this or not, but you have to buy a ticket to the live event. You just go on the website and you just buy a ticket. And what does that do for you? Well, it gets you your own personal Zoom link. So it's not a general Zoom link. It's yours, Randy, and nobody else's. And that way you can bid if you want to, or you can participate in the fun polls that we'll have, and you get a chance to get a door prize. Oh, I didn't mention the entertainment, which of course Jerry is going to be performing, and there will be some other people who will be performing too.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So how
Yes.
do I start all this? I got to do something other than stand here and ask you questions.
Well, oh darn, I don't have one with me. No, the auction guide. Some people maybe got an auction guide this morning. Who has one? Beautiful.
Yes.
So it looks like this for people who are here, but inside, this is on our website, and there's a link to it on your emails that you're getting. It's how to register, how to do the auction. And by the way, the online part of the auction closes this Friday at 5 p.m. So,
Bid early, bid often.
oh yeah.
And it sounds like there's lots of instructions. So if someone's confused, what do they do?
Well, Randy, there are a lot of people who are confused in this world, but if you're confused about the auction, you just email the handy dandy friendly operators who are standing by. And they are standing by, and they will help you.
Wonderful. I think it cleared it up for me. I hope it did for everybody else.
Yay, good. Go auction.
So we gather once more, as this congregation has been doing for over 200 years. Think about those pioneers of 1822 who gathered together in a social and religious and cultural climate much different than ours, but who looked forward, hoping that in 200 years, there'd still be a group here, and here we are. This may be your first Sunday here, or it may be your 1251st one. Who knows? But each time we come anew to join into community, to enjoy being with one another. It's so important to be able to feel that we're not alone in life. We always acknowledge that we are on traditional First Nation property, and it always seems strange to me that we mention this because the First Nations didn't have an understanding of ownership of property as we do. But it's a chance for us to remember that our civilization, our culture came on top of one that was here for a long, long time. And some really terrible things were done along the way. Languages removed, stories forgotten, people displaced. And so as we sit here, we're aware that we sit here by a certain largest of history that we may not have created, but we own that history and we need to acknowledge it. There were others here before, and they are still important to us. And now I'm going to do the most dangerous thing in this entire service. I'm going to invite you to greet each other. If you're online, you can greet each other in the chat line. Otherwise, greet those around you, and especially people you may not know already. And the dangerous part, I'll try to get you back into order in a few moments. Please say hi to each other. No. We know who's paying attention and who's not. In the fashion of the old Saturday morning serials that we saw in movie theaters when we were my age, at least, cliffhangers, remember those? There would be something at the end of one week, and you'd have to wait a week later to see it pick up again. Well, our opening hymn is a cliffhanger in a way. We sang it the last hymn last Sunday. We're going to sing it again today as the opening one. Please come sing a song with me. The words will be up here on the screen and the music will be there, and come join in and rise out of your spirit.
So I invite Alice McKay up to light the chalice as we all say the chalice lighting words.
behind you.
Join me. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to see and speak the truth in love, to help one another, and celebrate life. Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Carl. It's beautiful music.
Okay, so let's say together our children's affirmation. The words are in your order of service. They're on the screen. We are
Unitarian Universalists,
We are people
in minds, loving hearts, helping hands.
We care for the earth and each other. We're having some mic trouble, but that's okay because it was already the plan for me to come up here for the story.
Before we get to the story, I want to tell you about it. I won't be needing that, so wait, have fun with it. Sally's hanging out with Mike. Story came to me back in the 1940s. The story is called Randolph, the Bear Who Said No. I suspect it was given to me when I was in my twos. As it was written, it was very much of the culture and time of the 1940s and had certain messages that, well, they were partly true, but they were not the ones we teach today. And so we're going to bring you an updated version of Randolph, the Bear Who Said No.
Once there was a teddy bear. His name was Randolph. He could be a very bad teddy bear. He could also be a very good teddy bear. Sometimes he sassed his mother and disagreed with kind people who spoke to him. Other times he was the sweetest little bear you could imagine. Often it seemed like he didn't know which one he was. One day his mother said, "Randolph, come in and have your lunch."
No.
"Aren't you hungry?" asked his mother.
No.
"But Randolph," said his mother, "you must eat this good nourishing food full of vitamins and proteins to make you grow."
No.
"Don't you want to grow into a big, strong teddy bear?" asked his mother.
No. 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 No.
"Do you want to go outside and play?
No.
Do you want to stay inside with me?
No.
Can you say anything other than no?
No.
Don't you ever say yes?"
No. 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 No.
Randolph's mother stopped to think for a moment while Randolph stormed around saying,
No. 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 No.
"Randolph, do you even know the difference between no and yes?"
No.
"I have an idea. How about today you only say no to everything you're asked?"
No.
"You mean you don't want to say no to everything?"
No.
"Really?
Grrr.
Okay, today will be a no day." So Randolph started his no day. First of all, he went outside their den and played in the forest. But when he began to get hungry, he realized he was lost. He saw a woodcutter in the forest and went over to him. The woodcutter, seeing a cute little teddy bear in the middle of the forest, asked, "Are you lost, little bear?"
No.
"Okay then, have a nice day." The woodcutter walked away. Randolph tried to follow the woodcutter, but was too slow to really follow. Eventually, Randolph, by now a very tired and hungry bear, found a cabin with a wisp of smoke coming from its chimney. He went up to the door and knocked. The door opened, and the person inside asked gently, Is there something I can do for you?
No.
Well, then, I wish you a good day, and closed the door. Randolph was feeling not only tired and hungry, but also sad and scared. This was not turning out to be the kind of day he liked. Just then, he heard a rustle in the undergrowth, and there was his mother. Did you have a good day, Randolph? She asked.
No.
And poor Randolph started to cry. Oh dear, his mother said. I'm sorry to hear that. What if we make tomorrow different? Randolph looked at her with hopeful but teary eyes. How about from now on, you only say yes? Do you want to do that?
Yes. 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 Yes.
The next morning, Randolph woke up and let out his morning growl.
Arr.
When he went to see his mother, she offered to him some food. How about some grape nuts for breakfast?
Yes. Thank you.
Now, just between you and me, Randolph hated grape nuts. But there was a big bowl in front of him and nothing else for breakfast.
Arr.
Is everything all right?
Yes.
Okay, then, finish the bowl and you can go outside and play. Randolph took a long time to finish that bowl. At last, he could go outside to play. In a clearing in the forest, other teddy bears were playing soccer. When they saw Randolph, they called out, "Do you want to play with us?
Yes.
You'll be the goalkeeper. Is that okay with you?"
Yes.
Randolph hated being goalie. He hated it when balls were kicked right at him. But since he said yes, he went into the goal. The game was no fun for him as a goalie. His team lost 7-0. After the game, the others wandered away without talking to him, and Randolph went home. His mother asked, "Did you have a good time playing with your friends?"
Yes.
But Randolph felt badly. By saying yes all the time, he had done something he didn't like, and he had lied to his mother, which he also didn't like. His mother then asked Randolph, "Do you think you have learned about saying no all the time?"
Yes. And no. Sometimes when I say no, I really want to say yes. And sometimes I wanted to really say no. But if I only say no, how will anyone think I'm telling the truth? But if I only say yes, there are times when I really need to or want to say no. But not saying no means I could get in trouble or get hurt or lie about something important.
Mother looked at her little bear and said, "You learned something important today, and I'm glad that Randolph the bear, who says only no, has grown into Randolph the bear, who says what he really feels and means and wants." Now, how about a big bowl of raspberries with a scoop of chocolate ice cream?
Yes. And no, thank you. I don't really like chocolate ice cream, but I love raspberries.
And so from then on, he tried very hard to be Randolph the bear, who said no only when he meant no, and yes only when he meant yes, and expected others, including his mother, to respect him for being honest about himself. We will be singing This Little Light of Mine, and I'm going to meet the kids who are in the room at the back here where the stairs are, and we're going to go downstairs and do our program time.
Let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Are we still having mic problems? Yes, no, mixed messages. I'll go up to the
Okay.
podium. Now is the time in our service for shared milestones, both silent and spoken. So I invite those.
Tis a gift to be simple, tis a gift to be free, tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, to be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed to turn. Turn will be our delight, till by turning, turning we come round right.
The year is 1741. It's important for two reasons, which we'll get into. The first is that in 1741, the Reverend Jonathan Edwards up in Enfield preached a sermon that would become famous. I want to share with you some of those words because he was speaking a certain view of life and humanity. They are now the objects of that very same anger and wrath of God that is expressed in the torments of hell. And the reason why they do not go down to hell at each moment is not because God, in whose power they are, is not very angry with them, as he is with many miserable creatures now tormented in hell, who there feel and bear the fierceness of his wrath. Yea, God is a great deal more angry with great numbers that are now on earth. Yea, doubtless with many that are now in this congregation, who may be here at ease, than he is with many of those who are now in the flames of hell. So that is not because God is unmindful of your wickedness and does not resent it, that he does not let loose his hand and cut you off. God is not altogether such as one as themselves, though they imagine him to be so. The wrath of God burns against them. Their damnation does not slumber. The pit is prepared. The fire is ready. The furnace is now hot, ready to receive them. The flames do now rage and glow. The glittering sword is wet and held over them, and the pit hath opened its mouth under them. Ah, to be living in 1741. But that same year in England, a man named John Murray was born. And he saw things differently. And he came to preach in the Americas in the 1760s. And this is one of the things he said. Go out onto the highway and the byways. Give the people something of your new vision. You possess a small light, but uncover it. Let it shine. Use it in order to bring more light and understanding to the hearts and minds of men and women. Give them not hell, but hope and courage. preach the kindness and everlasting love of God. Two very contrasting images. I invite you to a responsive reading. The words should be on the screen in just a moment. There they are. And usually when we do responsive readings, you think of the minister says something and then you respond. Well, let's do it differently. You people do the first text, and we over here will do the indent, and I'll do all of them, and we'll get it together. And if you feel ornery, do whatever you want to do. These are the words of the great Unitarian Universalist religious educator Sophia Faz. Some beliefs are like walled gardens. They encourage exclusiveness and the feeling of being especially privileged. Other beliefs are expansive and lead the way into wider and deeper sympathies. Some beliefs are like shadows, clouding children's days with fears of unknown calamities. Other beliefs are like sunshine, blessing children with the warmth of happiness. Some beliefs are... Are we there? There we are. Beliefs are divisive, separating the saved from the unsaved, friends from enemies. Other beliefs are bonds in a world community where sincere differences beautify the pattern. Some beliefs are like blinders, shutting off the power to choose one's own direction. Other beliefs are like gateways, opening wide vistas for exploration. Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood. They blight the growth of resourcefulness. Other beliefs nurture self-confidence and enrich the feeling of personal worth. Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent in a changing world. Other beliefs are pliable, like the young sapling, ever growing with the upward thrust of life. It matters what we believe.
Now is the time in our service, as we do every week, our greeters will begin to pass the plate. When we say pass the plate, for newcomers, please do just that, pass it to the next person, those online as well. For those of you here in Fellowship Hall, we ask that you give generously to support this community that we love. If you're like me, I stopped carrying much cash these past few years. So I want you to know we do accept checks, and also you can go through Simple Give with your credit card. Thank you.
There, yeah. I won't be after this. Carl, thank you. Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful. I want to remind you before I move to the words of my message that this is a safe space. It's a space where we care about each other, where we can bring the tears and the discomfort as well as the joys and other things. And I may say a few things that may remind you of some things that strike deep within you. But what better place to do that than in a community like this of people who care about each other? So know you are all held in the hearts and the love of all those in this room. I want to remind you about a elementary school mathematics classroom. That might have struck terror in some people's minds. I want to talk to you about a bed in the Mayo Clinic and the person in it out in Rochester, Minnesota. And I also want to remind you perhaps of some of your own life, your own experiences. A number of years ago, there was an educational study done. And in that study, they set up parallel classrooms teaching mathematics. And the teachers were trained in two different styles of teaching. In one classroom, they would call the students up to the blackboard to solve a problem. Remember those good days? And you'd stand in front of the class and work on it? That may not be good days, I know. The same thing was being done in the other classroom. But the difference was this. In the first classroom, as soon as the student put down an answer, it was judged. The teacher was taught to abruptly say, "Wrong! No, you didn't get it." In the second classroom, the teacher waited until the student was done in her or his calculations and turned and said, "I think that's it." And then they would talk about whether it was the answer or not and what had happened and how they reasoned it. So one was a quick judgment, more often than not, to know. And the other was an invitation to get to yes. And doing pre-testing and post-testing on the subjects, those who were judged immediately did significantly poorer in the post-test than those who were allowed to work it through in search of an affirmation of their answer. Hold that. The image of teachers abruptly saying, "No, you're wrong," versus teachers saying, "Okay, what's happening here?" Now I take you to the 6th floor of the Methodist Hospital in Rochester, Minnesota, one of the Mayo Clinic hospitals. And I'm there as a chaplain, and I have a card given to me of one of the patients. Almost all the patients at the Mayo hospitals are not from Rochester. So they're there alone, without family often. They've come from all over the world, in fact. And I walked in and there was this man, I could see from his card, he was listed as Protestant. That's somewhat of a vague description, but Protestant. He was 89 years old. So I sat with him and talked with him. And knowing he was Protestant, I asked him if he would like to pray with me. And he said yes. And so we did prayer. And then after we got done, he told me about his life. I turned to him and I said, "You're a very faithful person." And he broke down in sobs. His body shook. He cried. It must have been at least 15 or 20 minutes. He couldn't get his breath back. He couldn't speak a word. He couldn't compose himself. And I stood there holding his hand and waiting. And finally he said to me through his tears, no one has ever said that to me. They've told me sinner. They told me I am worthless in the sight of God. No one has ever told me I'm faithful. And then I know he went on to a series of operations, which he survived, and then went on to I don't know how many more years of life. But in that moment, something happened. And how about in your own lives? Have you ever lived in a situation, which it might be in a household or a family or a community or some religious institution, where what you were hearing all the time was, no, no, don't you dare? Have you ever lived in a situation where you worried about what you did because you knew there was some kind of dogmatic no coming at you? That even when there was a slight yes, you knew it was a prelude to a clamping down of a negative spirit. Many of us live with that kind of memory. Many of us remember people who were supposed to love us, but all they were filled with was prohibition. All they were filled with was negativism. All they ever said to us, like Randolph the Bear, was no. Back in the 1760s, that minister, John Murray, we know some of his story. If you've been around here for a while, you know that he believed that things were different. He believed that what the message that came out of Christianity was that you should say yes to life, not no to life. That you should be less worried about all the prohibitions in the Bible and instead focus on all the invitations in the Bible. He said, also look at all the other world religions. They too seem to be all fascinated with what you can't do. But there's always the invitation to what's possible. And so he began to preach what's called universalism. That is, that we're all basically good at some central core of our being. But then his wife and children died. He ended up in a debtor's prison. And he thought that the world was saying no to him. Sailed to the Americas. There's a whole miracle story about sailing to New Jersey. And if they'd only been further south, they would have ended up at Atlantic City, and we'd be prosperous today. But instead, they ended up at a place called Murray Grove, where he came ashore, and there was a poor farmer. And seeing this new land and feeling the promise that was here, he once again preached the message. You heard a piece of it today. Don't give them hell, give them hope. That message of universalism, that message of saying yes to life, has been essential to who we are and the option that we offer. To say to people, yeah, times may be hard, but there can be something better. Instead of worrying about what they can't do, we try to affirm what they can do. My father, a staunch Universalist Unitarian, would say most religions say that humanity is pretty bad. And the job of religion is to keep them from getting worse. But Universalism says people are basically good. And the point of religion is to help them be even better. Now think about that message. That message of saying yes to people. That doesn't mean you approve of everything, just like Randolph the Bear had to learn that there are times to say no and there are times to say yes. But if your basic attitude is about acceptance as opposed to prohibition, your whole mindset changes. I suspect you've experienced that somewhere in your life as well, where at the point you thought you were going to get dumped on, at the point where you thought something was going to come down that was negative, at a point you thought you were going to be judged, at a point that you thought that the only word that could come to you was no, and someone said yes to you. Said, yes, I see talent in you. Yes, I see possibility in you. Yes, I see humor in you. Yes, I see life in you. Think about that different message. When you're only saying no, when you're only going for the negative, if you're looking for the worst in humanity, if you're looking for the worst outcome in any situation, if you even utter the word yes or anything positive, everyone is suspicious of you because they know what's coming. They know that your yes has always got a but after it. Yes, but you'll never get there. Yes, but it's not for you. Yes, but you're the wrong kind of person. But if you are one that generally affirms, if you're a person whose faith leads you to say yes to life, if you're someone who can appreciate the best in other people, then when you find you have to say no, people see it and notice it because it's such a contrast to how affirming of life you are. You're an affirming sort. People know you, that you go along and love them and support them. But then when you see racism and you say no, they hear it because there's no but after that no. It's in direct contrast to the affirmations we're giving. That is the universalist message, essentially. To say yes to life so that when it's not the fulfillment of life, you can emphatically say no. So I say yes to this wonderful tradition. I say yes in my own life, and I hope too that you'll remember this morning in what I've said, not in the specific content, but rather the direction of the universalist message of saying yes to things. And that when you're tempted, when I'm tempted, when each of us is tempted in a situation to go for the negative, we might hold our tongue. We might step back for a moment. We might not judge that math equation. We might not preach like Jonathan Edwards did to the worst, but instead, wait to see what positive thing we can say in the situation. And if in fact it is a situation where you know you have to say no, there's sexism on the line or ageism, classism, or any of that, you know you're saying it not because you're a negative person, but because your basic affirmation of life tells you that this other thing is not life, and not life as we can know it. So I invite you to take away from here this morning into your week this idea of this religion that says yes to life. Go out into the days ahead, to the situations you live with, the households you're in, the families you know, the co-workers you're with, the people over at the retirement home or wherever, and see if saying yes to life doesn't express who you really are much more than saying no. But don't hold back when you have to say no. The world needs the voices of affirming people who are willing to draw the line around cruelty and warfare and gun violence and all of that, because that is the aberration, not the affirmation. In that spirit, may we go forth like our forebears did long ago, saying yes to life.
Join with me, please, as we say the words to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again.
And now we're going to join in a very universalist hymn, which will be up here in a moment with kind of a rocking out version of it too. Number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath. Please rise in body or spirit. They looked like they were having fun. No, don't be seated. Stay up a moment. As you feel comfortable, and it could be a hand, an arm, an elbow, or whatever, I invite you to connect to people around you, to feel that we're not just individuals sitting here separately, but that we're one larger community. It's been forever. Yeah. Human touch and human care, and saying yes to each of us of where we are and where we're yet to be. Since what we choose is what we are, and what we love we yet shall be, that goal shall ever shine afar. The will to win it makes us free. Let us go forth saying yes to life and truth and love. Now let's hear that one more time. Yes.
Thank you, Carl. Now, for those of you online, you'll have some breakout groups that'll be offered to you to go to for discussion. And the rest of us, there's going to be coffee at the back, and we'll have informal conversation. And don't forget that in about 15 minutes downstairs in the lower level, a discussion about the process of moving toward the new ministry here. It's been good to be with you.